Hello, everybody. I hope you guys are doing very well. So it is late night, Father's Day, early morning, the 22nd, which is the day after Father's Day, Monday. And I gotta make this into talk about two things, and hopefully this video won't run too long, but just stuff I've been seeing online that's been kind of on my spirit and everything, and I've wanted to talk about it. So, I will start with, and they both deal with parenting stuff. Okay, so last year, I guess it was, a woman by the screen name TheWizardLiz, who is one of those hypergamy, level up, men ain't shit kind of, chicks, apparently in her mid-ish 20s. She met a guy named Landon that, as I understand it, he makes his money off of people watching him play video games online. And anyway, about her is that she seemed to have abandoned her own message. And a lot of people, first off, there's been, and this is not attacking her in any way because I'm not accusing her of this, but there's been a lot of content theft online because the part that intersects with her is not about content theft, but about basically people saying what they think people want to hear in order to make money, and successfully making money and continuing to pump out that message when, if you look at how they live their lives, they don't appear to believe in what they're saying. And I can still appreciate that, they're spitting facts about a lot of stuff, but I can't, it's like a preacher. When you're a Christian, you're not going to stop being a Christian because you find out that your preacher is smoking crack and going to strip clubs, because, that does not take away from the word of God, right? And by the way, I'm not a holy roller. I'm not pushing a religious agenda. I'm making a point, though, that just because that person is not who they presented themselves to be does not mean that the message is not real. Okay. And that's how I look at TheWizardLiz, and also that MJ Gray chick or whatever, and many others, who they hypocritically will talk about how men aren't shit. Like, I'm gonna vent about this really quickly. Okay, a lot of us women are born and bred to basically want companionship. I think human beings in general, including men, want companionship. Whatever you think of men, they want someone. Okay. And women, we definitely want someone. We've been taught to, your prince will come, baby, where's my husband, or whatever. I don't know. I love that song to death. But anyway, you catch my meaning. We want that. I'm not gonna lie, I wrestle with those feelings. At this point, I feel like my looks are choosing for me as a morbidly obese woman, and not just a morbidly obese woman, but a morbidly obese woman who is very shy. Like, I'm shy, I'm paranoid. So if I wanted, I'm going to be honest, if I wanted to just hoe out, I could hoe out. I could. But I'm not in a stage in my life where, and when I say I could hoe out, I mostly mean if I wanted to, and I'm not attacking anybody on dating sites because I know people are on there for legitimate romantic, connection and stuff. But what I'm saying is I've also known people who are just use those things for hookups, right? And if I wanted to, I could be one of those people. I've played around on dating sites. I've only met one person as an adult woman off of a dating site. This one guy several years ago. He was over 400 pounds. And I'm pointing that out because if I were a man and he were a woman, trust and believe a dude would point that shit out. He was over 4, which he didn't mislead me about his size or anything. I'm just saying and I was still interested in him, but he was fucking boring and we didn't have any kind of connection. Anyway, that's neither here nor there, but he was cute. And anyway, That's the only guy that I can think of that I've ever met from a dating site. Okay, why do I mention this as an adult? Because I have some kind of point. Oh yeah. Just long story short, I've been on there before, and there are men who want to fuck me. I mean, excuse my language for saying so, but I'm not saying that they want to bring me around their friends and family and say, hey, this is my girlfriend. I'm not saying that. Maybe some of them would, but at the bare minimum, I could get sausage if I wanted it, if that was where my brain is. It's not, right? And anyway, I've wrestled with myself. That's how I know ultimately I'm not as much of a pick-me as I claim to be. Like, yes, I want to be considered attractive. I want to be desired. Yes. But if I were a real pick-me, y'all, I'd be getting banged out. I would. The way I would be getting banged out, and the way that I'm not. So I can't be. Like, what kind of pick-me? You catch my meaning? Like, I don't know. Anyway, I've been wanting to say that for a while. But anyway, why am I mentioning this, though? Because I just went all, like, child. I forgot why I see this. This is what happens when you talk so much that you, like, talk about everything and then you forget why you're mentioning something. I was talking about men and getting banged out. And, I hate when I forget my point. Hopefully it'll come back to me. Anyway, it usually does. Anyway, I was mentioning about wanting to talk about the whole, I know what I was saying, is that people want a connection, and that is natural, male or female. I think that women make the emotional part a bigger deal than men do, but at the same time, we both want connection. We both like desire to partner with someone. And I see these women who are encouraging other women to avoid relationships, and men ain't shit, and fuck men, and all that kind of stuff, and they have husbands and boyfriends. And I'm gonna level with you, to a certain degree, I think y'all bitches should be ashamed of yourselves if you're doing that shit. I'm just gonna say it. And I hate, they always want to pretend like they're the exception, and that their husbands are the exception. Then why are you pushing that message? You know what I mean? But they're pushing it because there's money involved in it. It is profitable for them to push that bullshit. And I'm sorry, I think if you are a so-called feminist that so-called is coming down on men super hard, acting like none of them are shit and you can never trust a man, but you're trusting a fucking man and you're with a man, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. I'm sorry, you are. You're wrong for that. And I'm tired of seeing this shit. And I feel like what happened with TheWizardLiz and this MJ Gray, both of these are TikTokers who have over 1 million subscribers, if I'm not much mistaken. TheWizardLiz, she's going through a custody issue with her husband, or not husband, sorry, her baby's daddy, because she didn't get married to him, so that's her baby daddy. She's going through a custody situation with him, and MJ Gray just found some rich guy to marry her. And either way, I feel like, you know, people are not wrong to call them out on their bullshit, because they were both pushing a certain narrative. And a lot of people who I follow, I still give them the side eye, because a lot of them are fucking married, but they'll tell you like story after story about why men are not shit, men are horrible, oh my gosh, men are so bad, and, you know, promoting this shit to us women. And, you know, there have been marriages and relationships that have ended, rightly or wrongly, over this stuff, but meanwhile, these bitches are cuddling at home with their men. And I do think that's kind of shady. I'm sorry, you know. I think that's shady. I'm just going to say it. I'm officially saying it. And if you fall into that category, then just know I think you're shady to sit up here all day long online saying how men are not shit and promoting that message to impressionable young women. Some women have been through the ringer, some women have not, and they're just scared to go through it or whatever. And you're like leaving this certain impression on us. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I still consume this content because I do think that there's merit to it. It's just that it's fucked up. It's like somebody rich trying to convince poor people that money isn't everything, but at the same time, they will fight tooth and nail to keep their millions of dollars. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Or like some of these women, if a man is accused of any kind of crime or something against women, they automatically believe the woman, but let it be their husband. And I come up and I say, oh, such and such, your husband, he put his hands on me. Then they're going to call me a fucking liar. And they're going to defend their man. They're going to stay with their man. You think that they're going to pack up their shit and leave that night like, oh no, you abuse women because I believe all women. You know what I mean? I'm just ranting and raving right now, but I'm just saying, so there's a lot of hypocrisy, and why I'm mentioning it is because these women are making so much money off of this, man-hating space. They are the female version of the red pill movement. And don't get me wrong, is there a lot of merit to it? There's some legitimacy in merit, but a lot of these women are the wrong messengers for these messages. They're full of shit. Like I said, they come home and snuggle and cuddle with the man, but they're encouraging the rest of us not to. That's shitty to me. I'm sorry. When you know that this is something that women want and stuff at the end of the day. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, again, still into this content, still heavy into it, but I see the hypocrisy. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, about TheWizardLiz. So she's going through what started out as a cheating scandal with the guy Landon during her pregnancy, and it was at a stage in her pregnancy that in many places you could not end the pregnancy. Okay. And I'm not encouraging anybody to end a pregnancy, but it's like these men know what they're doing with that shit. And anyway, so that was one. And then now she's had the baby and he has like basically stolen custody because she's not an American citizen and he is, and the baby was born in America as I understand it. And so, he has the upper hand in this situation, and she left the country and, for legal reasons, she left the country or something like that. So anyway, and so she's been playing this kind of like fuck them kids, that she went from basically crying online about it or, to everybody to now saying like kind of fuck them kids or whatever. And I remember I was watching a video from this one creator that was like breaking it down and saying that this is just a strategy for her and that she is not as detached as she's pretending to be. She just wants him to give up and give her baby back. And while I agree, I was also kind of like, girl, like this man could see you saying this, so you're not helping, if you catch my meaning, even though you can say the same thing about me, but I get hardly any views, okay? And most of the time my views are women. Unless I say anything about men, and then sometimes men will, like, the message will get pushed to men, and then I'll have men in my comments talking crazy to me. But otherwise, most of my views are women. Anyway, moving on. So that was TheWizardLiz, and, I wish her well, but yeah, to me, she just wanted to make some money, and she didn't really stand firmly in her truth, her message or whatever. And don't get me wrong, we can all be hypocrites. I have been hypocritical. I think for the most part, that's not my norm. To be hypocritical, but here and there I've been hypocritical, and I usually can be honest about, hey, I know I said this, but I'm doing this. Kind of like me with AI. I still do not talk to ChatGPT and all that stuff. I'm like, I feel like I still don't do that shit. I'm sorry. And I think that's sad for those of you who do, because it's a computer program that does not give a fuck about what your outcome is. You're turning to that thing. There are no repercussions if it gives you bad advice or anything, but y'all got to do what you got to do. That being said, though, the AI that I have taken part in is filters. And I did kind of leave it open that I could come back to using filters, but I got back into filters kind of heavy because I just want to grow my channel, of course. And I said that I feel like my filtered content gets more views and it requires less of me. Like, I don't have to think of something like really, you know, interesting to say and everything like that to do a YouTube short, because my shorts get more views than my regular videos on average. And so I don't have to like think of something that inventive to say. I can just, you know, pose like, you know, with a cute little filter and stuff. And then I'm not using a filter right now, but you know what I mean? And then next thing you know, like the video has over 1,000 views, which helps, you know, my channel's growth and everything, you know. So I did renege on that, and I've been honest about reneging on it, but I've reneged on it. So, you know, we're all subject to hypocrisy, but their hypocrisy is earning them a huge income. You know, these women who sit up there and talk all this I hate men shit and then do the same dumb shit that they get on the rest of us for. And I want to just say this about the whole giving a man custody thing, especially, you know, in honor of Father's Day. So my views on that are, if motherhood is too overwhelming for you, I think that that's a really good idea. I completely support you giving custody to the father. I support you giving custody to anybody who is in a position to take your child that you believe is not going to harm your child in any way, shape, or form, of course. That is a safe, we'll say a safe person for your kid. You know, when you see all these news stories of women who have gone off the deep end, people who have gone off the deep end, but namely talking about mothers and taken themselves and their child with them, you know, I don't know how you don't connect the dots. I mean, I understand we don't all connect the dots on stuff, but me connecting the dots is me saying that we have to have a safe place for women to give up being a mother. Just like men give up being a father all the time, women should also be able to give up being a mother if it is too much for them. I would rather that than for me to go on Facebook, because that's where or Instagram, that's where I get a lot of my news stories, and see, you know, mother sets herself and her daughter on fire, which actually happened not too long ago. I would rather just mother, you know, gives her sister her daughter, like, or something. Like, I would rather that. Or gives the father custody and stuff. Why not? I mean, that providing that you trust that person, why not? Me personally, I've never wanted to give up my child. She was a very wanted child. You know, I wanted to be her mother, and I'm grateful to be her mother. My blessing. But, you know, and I also feel like because she's a girl, even more so, I feel protective over her in a way where if she were my son and he was a teenager, I feel like it would be so much easier for me to be like, you know what, why don't you go spend some time with your dad or something like that. But because she's my little girl, I can't even imagine, you know. But I don't condemn women that give their children to someone who they believe to be a truly safe person. Okay, then I don't have a problem with that, you know. And yeah, while I don't agree with the fuck them kids mentality, at the same time, I understand, or I believe I understand where TheWizardLiz is coming from, because this man is trying to blackmail her. So anyway, where else did I want to take this though? I just like ranted and raved a lot. I think the next thing is just about, oh, video I saw. Geez, I wish I could pull it up. I don't think I can because I forget the name of the video. But it was so, or the man who made it rather, it was so funny. It was about Father's Day. He makes these really funny baby's daddy videos where he like talks about wanting to see his child and he starts crying and everything. And he really is just like putting on an act and stuff. And he is hilarious. Okay. Well, he did one for Father's Day. And the Father's Day one, he was having the Instagram dad where the guy just takes pictures with his kids and all that stuff. And then he did another, or within that video, he was also saying about the women who the man wants to spend Father's Day with his children. Like he actually does want to be in his children's life and he wants to spend Father's Day with them, and the mother will not allow it. And she's like, oh, spend Father's Day with that bitch or something or whatever. Okay. With that, you know, your new girlfriend or something. We could get into the whole bitter baby's mama stuff, but I'm going to say this, and call me a bitter baby's mama, I don't know, but it's my belief system. I remember this woman named Swan Teal online said something to the effect of like, if you want a woman to be a good mother, her happiness is important. Not those exact words, but that was the gist of it. You know, you cannot make life hell for a woman. We have seen this time and time again, and then expect her to be able to give the best to her children. That is insane, okay? And it's not talked about enough that mental, emotional, physical, you know, all this abuse towards the mother of your children, and that includes cheating. Fuck! That includes cheating. And by the way, I'm not digging into what's happened to me. I'm not making this personal, okay? So shout out to my baby's daddy. Happy Father's Day. I'm not making this personal. I'm talking in general. I am so sick of men who cheat on the women that they are with and then pretend that that has nothing to do with being a father. You literally chose P or D, or whatever you want to call those things. You chose that over your kids. I'm sorry if you're too dumb to realize that. How many families are broken up by cheating? Stop it. How many people, how many families are torn apart by cheating? Use your freaking noodle, y'all. And why I say this is because if you are mistreating that woman and you're a man and you so-called love your kids, then there's something wrong with you up here. I'm sorry, there's something wrong. You think 2 and 2 equals who did it or something. That didn't make any sense. But you know what I'm saying? You're not understanding that when you mistreat her, you are hurting your family. You're hurting your family because at the end of the day, it is my personal opinion. I've heard a handful of people say, oh, I wish my parents had broken up. My parents, you know, because they grew up fighting or whatever. Depending on how bad the